What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Pokopia fever has absolutely taken over the internet, so much so now with sellouts across the board just about, the price went up. Yeah, this is a weird one that happened with online retailers, and specifically one where the $80 price tag reared its ugly head there for a bit. We're going to go over exactly what happened with that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Microsoft. Since they are at GEC this week, they're spreading an interesting message, we'll say, for their next generation Helix device. And we're also seeing more and more discussion around price point, north of $1,000, yes. But now the questions come up, does it actually have to be above $1,000? And the gaming industry, we've talked about how no studio appears to be safe. And in fact, that has continued to be true with a number of studios that are linked to a game that actually beat Call of Duty, seeing a bunch of layoffs. It's crazy stuff. We'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Capcom, who seems like they're lining up a really good 2026. Of course, Resident Evil Requiem has done really well out of the gate, not only with sales, but also with critics and reviews. And now take a look at this. Over on Metacritic, Monster Hunter Stories 3 reviews went live. It's currently sitting at an 86. And now think about Capcom, right? Resident Evil Requiem just came out. High 80s. Probably will end up being on many people's Game of the Year cards for nomination stuff at the end of this year. Here's Monster Hunter Stories 3 with an 86. We have the Mega Man Star Force Collection coming up in a few weeks. Pragmata is next month. And then Onimusha's out there somewhere, for 2026. And I mean, the big question mark for me right now is probably Pragmata. I'm trying to figure out where that's going to land, say on review boards, and how that game really just turns out. It's a new IP, so it's like, we've played the demo, but what exactly are we really going to get out of the full game? Still though, Capcom, man, they're cruising right now. It seems like 2026 could end up being the year of Capcom, so definitely keep an eye on them. But I mean, Monster Hunter Stories 3, if you were looking forward to it, turns out anyway, people are enjoying it, so look forward to that one releasing on the 13th. Also, we did have our final trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. That is coming out April 1st. And we saw all kinds of new footage from the movie, of course, for this final trailer, some different characters, and even some voice actors and actresses that were shown. Like, you see some of the images here. The one that really stuck out to me, though, and I think many, is that the voice of Yoshi is Donald Glover. Didn't really see that one coming, but sure, why not? I mean, look, the movie, it looks good, right? I mean, it's what I expect out of what would end up being a nice popcorn flick to take the family to and see what should be some really good looking visuals on the big screen here. Be very imaginative, and as we can see already, they're doing a lot pulling from, yes, deep lore within the Mario universe. But I mean, I think the references to things like Mario Odyssey is great, since it's hard to believe that that game is about to be 9 years old at the end of 2026, but that's wild stuff. Still, though, they have some other promotional stuff planned, say through the Nintendo Today application and others leading up to its April 1st release in the theaters, so I guess keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, just a few more weeks, the movie will be out, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to go see it, but that was also part of the poll question later on, exactly how many of you were going to head out to the big screen to check this one out in theaters. Oh, and going through 2026, there's going to be one studio I think definitely to keep an eye on here to see if they are ready to make their big announcement for a new IP. And we can see, this is over on VGC, Shinji Mikami's new studio Unbound. They're building a AAA original IP for consoles and PC. Now, apparently what they're looking to do here is AAA, I guess, quality or polish with AA content. So hard to exactly line up what they're referring to. Maybe the idea of, hey, Resident Evil has that AAA presentation factor, but they're not necessarily super long games. You're meant to play through them multiple times in different ways. Maybe something in that regard. But a lot of people are looking at this thinking, oh, it's going to obviously be a horror game. I don't know. I mean, look, Shinji Mikami is known for The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and obviously Resident Evil with Capcom and stuff. So I think it's possible, yes, it's a horror game. It's also possible it's just something else completely different. Since, I mean, form a new studio and you have creative freedom, maybe he does want to pursue, not exactly like Hi-Fi Rush, but you know what I mean, just something completely out of left field. But that's the exciting part. Not really sure what's going to come out of the studio, but it's been like 2 or 3 years since they started up, so maybe we are getting to a point where they're at least ready to show what they have in store for us with this new game. Maybe keep an eye on Summer Game Fest or at the end of the year with the Video Game Awards show. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Pokemon Pokopia, which is absolutely taking the internet by storm. I mean, really, it's taken over social media. I see so many people talking about their different towns that they have, and most of them showing off these towns that make mine look terrible, but I'm kind of playing through this, trying to see what happens at the end of the game. Like, the story is very, very intriguing, the way that they're pulling you through, and honestly, there are some big moments in the game that I was not expecting. Certainly a lot of callbacks to Pokemon Red and Blue and the environments, we'll say, and towns there. It's very, very interesting stuff, the way that I think they're building this up. Maybe, hopefully, a big reveal as to where all the humans are, but also you're coming across a bunch of Pokemon as you go along and different moves, and it's genuinely fun. So good news there, the game is high quality. The bad news has been finding a physical copy. Yes, I know, game key card. Still though, there are people out there who just want to have the packaging and put it on their shelf. Okay, fine. But when you go out to any of these stores, like, it just aren't any in stock. Like my local Walmart, I've been by there a few times and there's just none there. No Switch 2 systems either. And it's now to the point where some noticed the other day, Amazon's price went up to $80 for this thing. So here's a screenshot you can see, and this is pulled by Polygon over on their website with Pokemon Pokopia out of stock for the physical copy, but coming up as $79.99 on Amazon. Here's the thing, all right? So taking a look at it, it wasn't a third party, and that's what people were theorizing. Oh, a third party is selling it for that much because it's out of stock everywhere, so of course they're gonna mark it up and just take advantage of the current shortage. And Amazon's just showing it by default. Not the case though, it was shipped by Amazon. It seemed to be fully official there. So there really wasn't any kind of reason as to why they marked it up, since they weren't even shipping these things out according to their listing until the end of March, just about like the 3rd or 4th week of March, these would start going out. So there's that 10-day window that they'll show you on the page. The digital version though was still up for $70 on Amazon. So at this time, I double checked, and the price has reverted back to $70 for the physical version on the Switch 2, still having that window for shipment, March 24th to April 1st. So again, you're going to be waiting a while if you decide to buy on Amazon. And I will say this, this game has caught everyone off guard, especially when it comes to retail, sure, but it feels like it even caught Nintendo off guard in this case. And again, we'll see sales later on this week when the Famitsu sales charts go live, so look for that Thursday. And of course, we'll be talking about it here as soon as they're available, because I am genuinely curious to see the sell-through rate in Japan. We'll get that information back as well. Did it sell through 85%, 90% of what's available at retail? Because if that is the case, if it's above 90%, they just understocked the thing. Because you're still gonna have pockets throughout the market where there's just a few Pokopia copies that don't get sold, but somewhere else there's a ton of demand and people keep calling even though it's out of stock. So that's something to keep in mind. But yes, this game is probably going to be in demand for quite some time, just based on the smaller allotment of physical copies. Although, hey, maybe people out there go, you know what, I really want the game. It's digital for me at this point, and it's just going to live on the system going forward anyway. And that might just be the way that they've gone about it, because you see that $80 price. It was very strange to have that pop up, because we have shades of $80 of things like Mario Kart World and went through that entire thing. Well, here, I don't know if it was a pricing error by Amazon or a strategic error where they had it up for, I don't know, a few hours. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Now it's 70 again. But no, that is not the price of Pokopia. That was a whole thing going around as well, that the price went up due to artificial scarcity. It's just online retailer with Amazon, I don't know, taking advantage of the market or marking it up by accident. So I guess just keep an eye out for any restocks if you're still looking for the game physically. Otherwise, this might be a situation of just having to go digital, because it's like impossible to find the game anywhere in stock. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and their next generation offering, Project Helix. At this time, we know that it's an Xbox console that also plays PC games, and that's been an entire talking point now. Is it just a PC that's emulating Xbox games? I guess, but then it's also a console according to Microsoft. Still many things we need ironed out here, and it's going to be really interesting to see Microsoft's messaging with the marketing for this system. And that, of course, will also come back to the price point. We'll get to that in a moment, though, because Microsoft is at GDC right now, and this would be stuff they're more so talking to developers about and presenting their strategy going into 2027, because I do think we're seeing them set up for a launch next year. Could be holiday 2027, and we're more than a year and a half away, sure. Could be earlier than that in 2027. At this time, I'm expecting holiday 27, like that November time slot as usual, but who knows? Still though, we can see this. This is over on Windows Central, saying at Xbox's upcoming appearance at GDC this week, they get a look at its booth, which features several new marketing slogans. They have an image here for it. So these include things like build for what's next, the future of Xbox starts now, empowering developers for 25 years. They even have a display showcasing every Xbox console up to the Xbox Series. So that I assume is them referencing the idea of backwards compatibility all the way back to the original Xbox, and then also playing into the 25th anniversary that we'll see, I guess, happen later on this year. They also naturally have Halo, Gears, Forza, and you can throw Fable in there, as that was an original Xbox release way back in the day. That'll be launching to coincide more or less with the 25th anniversary throughout this year. So it is all building up to this major celebration. And maybe that's where they give us our first true look at Project Helix later on this year. So, I mean, the pitch to developers clearly is going to be an easier development cycle, development time, putting their game, setting it up for Windows so that it works across a bunch of devices. They say reaching millions and millions of players, and technically they'd be correct. There are millions and millions of Xbox Series systems out there. But for this, it would be, I guess then you're developing for Windows, but it'll also work on all of our Xbox devices, even if they license them out and partner, say with Asus or Lenovo or whoever wants to make, you could buy a Dell Xbox, something like that. So a lot of questions still around the hardware, how all this is going to work with, say, paying to play online. Will you actually still have to do that despite it being a PC? So a lot of loose ends they have to tie up, but pricing will be a major factor. And so now we have Moore's Law is Dead, who has been pretty good about at least being on top of a lot of the stuff when it comes to the hardware, even talking about this Xbox or Project Magnus for quite some time. That's the chipset that would be going into this new Xbox system, really referencing a beast of a device then utilizing this. And I mean, it seems like that's what we're going to find out more about later on this year, probably. But here's the thing, you can see this. This is over on Pure Xbox, saying Moore's Law is Dead believes Project Helix is likely to cost anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, with a $900 absolute minimum price if Microsoft wanted to sell this thing at cost, and if it was mass manufactured at a large scale. So I don't believe Microsoft wants to lose money on the system, which means they also don't want to break even on the system, because there are many other factors at play. We've talked about tariffs and other things, but there's more factors at play than just the build of materials. So I think the absolute minimum price this thing would go for is $99999, basically just $999.99. So they can come in just under that 1,000 mark. It'll still be 1,000 with shipping or tax or whatever, but that marketing just under a penny under 1,000. I could see that being a reality if Microsoft wants to push that far. I mean, I could also see them going, you know what, it's $1,200 because we want to make 25% margin on this thing. Sure, that's absolutely possible. But they definitely have to think about how many of these things they want to sell, because there will be reality hitting them very, very quickly. If their price point is $1,200 to $1,500, you're just not really going to tap into that general audience, the mass market. You're going to tap into the enthusiasts who will spend a lot of money, but will it be enough to hold up all these studios and intellectual properties and releases that you're doing? Probably not. So I'd like to think they have other plans around devices that are cheaper, because at this time, we're really only expecting one system, but who knows, maybe they pull off an Xbox Series S-like device that is cheaper and still somewhat capable. I guess we'll hear more from GDC, as, look, there's a lot of people discussing this stuff behind closed doors, but also just openly, I'm sure, to journalists and press out there. So we'll see if we get any more information coming out of this week, especially going into next week when a bunch of reports will most likely drop. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the gaming industry here for a few moments, because it turns out even if you're able to exceed expectations with your game, beat its biggest rival for decades now, it feels like, and dethrone them completely in the US, sell what seems like estimated 15 to 20 million copies, it's not enough, and your studios will still face layoffs. This has to do with EA and Battlefield 6. Yeah, I saw this news and I said, really? they're all facing layoffs. Well, this was initially broke by IGN, we can see, where they say EA has laid off an unknown number of individuals from across its Battlefield teams, including workers at Criterion, DICE, Ripple Effect, and Motive Studios. Yeah, there are a lot of studios come together to work on Battlefield. It's like Need for Speed can wait. We got to get Battlefield 6 out there, all right? So this was from an EA spokesperson to IGN when IGN just asked, hey, like, what's going on here? Battlefield 6 absolutely crushed it. Was the number one selling game above Call of Duty in the US, and layoffs? They say, we've made select changes within our Battlefield organization to better align our teams around what matters most to our community. Battlefield remains one of our biggest priorities, and we're continuing to invest in the franchise, guided by player feedback and insights from Battlefield Labs. So we know Battlefield is an ongoing game, even though it was sold at $70 and sold a significant number of copies at 70, which I would have to assume completely cleared by quite a bit its development costs. And on top of that, there's post-purchase spend, as in microtransactions and other things you could put your money in for. And they even have the free-to-play Battle Royale style service. That version didn't really do that well, to my understanding. I see that it's mostly negative on Steam. I tried it out. It was like, it just didn't feel as good to play as some of the other Battle Royale games. That does include Call of Duty Warzone, so they still had a lot of work to do in that regard. But Battlefield 6, that was a fun multiplayer game, all right? And again, it was $70. They sell estimated 15 to 20 million copies, rolling in a ton of money. And then months later, not even like, the following year or something. Guys, this game came out, 4 months ago? Something like that? And layoffs across the board for all the different studios that were working on Battlefield. And some took time off from major franchises. Yeah, Need for Speed isn't necessarily, I guess, major quote unquote anymore, but it's still a franchise I'd like to see more from. Them continue innovating on it, but they pulled studios there and said, hey, you got to work on Battlefield. You feel like you'd be safe, and now there they are, they're laid off. Now, it's hard to say the number of people who are seeing layoffs from each individual studio. It doesn't seem like any of the studios have been closed, nothing like that, but they are just shedding developers and talent from each studio, and they're calling this more of a restructuring. So it's hard to say exactly what their plans are there, because remember, with EA, they're not public technically. I mean, they were going private with all like the funding and stuff they were able to do, and the purchasing that was happening there. So they become more and more of an enigma and kind of a closed off company to get more of a transparent look at what exactly is happening. And in this case, you kind of have to go around and look at different people who are laid off and then start to put the pieces together. But this is not great for the industry when you go, wow, a game like Battlefield 6 that made a ton of money still sees layoffs. What does that say for a game that does just okay? It almost seems like, well, that's it for the studio. You might as well shut them down, because Battlefield 6 kills it last year, and then they have people just laid off from it. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you planning to see the new Mario Galaxy movie in theaters? 59% say yes, 41% say no. Yeah, I'll go and see it. I'm trying to think if I want to go and see it, I guess, closer, April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in there. There are times where I like to wait a week, 2 weeks even, so the initial rush happens. I can more comfortably, I'll say, watch these movies. You go into theater at like early afternoon, and it's you and 3 or 4 other groups or something there, and it's just I know people like the excitement and the hype, and there are certain movies that I like to have that stuffed theater experience. Think of when we had Endgame going on, that was awesome. We'll have the other Avengers Marvel movie that'll happen later on this year. That's another one I might want to go to an opening night or opening weekend. The Mario movie, that's going to be more of a family thing, and it's like with the kids and stuff around, it's a lot easier to quieter theater is probably better for that. But I will be seeing it, and I'm expecting it to be very similar to the first one, which will just be a fun popcorn movie flick to go see with the kids and the family. And I'm sure we'll have a good time seeing, well, I mean, it's Illumination, so it'll be some awesome looking visuals and stuff on the big screen there. So it should be a lot of fun. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from LMK Gaming. It says, it's that time of year where I get to watch Newswave an hour early for about 3 weeks. Yeah, that daylight savings time is Newswave's like mortal enemy, because I'm sure the people who don't have daylight savings time necessarily, and they're just confused. It's like, why is this here an hour early or an hour late? It's either it falls back an hour and that messes things up, or you jump forward an hour and that messes things up, because we went back an hour before and they got to reset and It's a whole thing. I would prefer that we just didn't have it at all. To me, it just makes it easier because you're either really annoyed when you have to jump forward or you're somewhat relieved when you fall back, but then in the back of your mind, you're like, we're going to jump forward at some point here. You know, I guess if you're someone who's working over the overnight shift, I guess you go from like 1 to 3 or something, and you just lose an hour and you can get out of work earlier. I don't know, let me know if you're someone who goes through that. What exactly happens at your job when that takes place? Do you still get the hour, like, credited? I'm not sure. I'm just curious. But yeah, it messes with Newswave. But hey, after a couple of weeks, it'll basically be reset in our mind, and we'll be kind of back to normal with the 8 a.m. Eastern time. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear some of my thoughts around Pokopia and how I was basically just very wrong about that game. I did an entire video talking about it. I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.